Well, only after 3 straight days of building and laboring is this mining rig complete. So I kind of want to go over what's on the inside if anybody has an interest in replicating it. It's tested. I did a full 24-hour stress test with no failures. It's working very reliably. And while it's ugly as hell, it is functional. What we've got over here on the left hand side, we have 2 power supplies. One of them is the Cooler Master V1000. The other one is the Corsair, what is it, the RM1000X. Both 1000-watt power supplies, both working in tandem. Effectively split 3 cards to the Cooler Master, 2 to the Corsair, as well as the motherboard, and etc. So the motherboard itself is not one that you're really going to be able to walk into Best Buy and purchase. At least as far as I know, this is a sort of custom motherboard built with the intent of mining with it. It is from BioStar. It's the TB250 BTC, likely for Bitcoin. I'll link everything that I purchased here in the build in the description below if you have an interest in purchasing it. So on this I have a simple dual-core Pentium processor. I've got 2 sticks of 4GB DDR4 2400 megahertz RAM. I've got a PCI based Wi-Fi card which links up to an antenna right here. It is mounted so it can't move, so it always has Wi-Fi no matter where it goes. Up above are the graphics cards. These are the Asus Turbo GeForce GTX 1080 Ti. As you can see, each one of these is installed on top of a PCIe riser. It gets its power through SATA and then conveys the data down to the motherboard PCIe slots via USB 3.0. Now on the other side, I've got 7 fans that are all hooked up to a fan controller. It is that little mess of wires right there. So they run non-stop whenever the rig is turned on, and effectively they're just blowing out this way. That's also part of the reason I bought these cards, is because they are the blower style. For mining with this array of graphics cards set up like this, it brings 2 advantages. The first is that you don't have 2 to 3 fans exposed, which is especially helpful when you have wires all over the place. So as long as you just focus on the 1 fan here, make sure it's clear, there's not major obstruction, good airflow, you're pretty much set. The other reason I bought these cards is because they're the blower style cards. They're moving the air this way as well. So working in conjunction with these fans, it's going to do a good job of moving the air this way. So as long as you've got good ventilation behind it, nothing obstructing the front, you should have pretty good airflow coming this way. I will say that if you're planning on building this, definitely consider where you're going to leave it while it's running. Having this in my two-car garage raised the temperatures significantly, just in the 24 hours that I had it running. So definitely bear that in mind. You don't want to stow this away in a closet or somewhere where you might consider it to be convenient, because it will overheat, and heat kills computer components. So you want it to have good ventilation. So without further ado, I'm going to take this down to my garage, power it up, and show you guys what it looks like while it's running. Alright guys, we're in the garage. I've got the power all hooked up. I'm going to flip the switches on the power supplies, just like that, and I'm going to turn it on, just like that. For my build, I chose to go with colored LED fans because if one of these were to go out, potentially it would still spin because of the positive pressure coming from the graphics card. And so this way it gives me another sort of indicator. If the light's not on, there may be something wrong with the controller or the fan itself. So that works out well for me. So the PC is booting up here, and while I don't know how reliable I could call this app, what I'd like to do is sort of demo for you what the decibel level is right now, right in front of the fans, while it's sort of idling. So at idle, with the microphone right in front of the fans. It's only at about 70 decibels. Not too bad. Okay, so I'm going to try to show you the BIOS without obstructing the camera, which might be a little difficult. Right now I'm calibrating the fans. I want them to be at just about full tilt. So one other thing I found with a bit of troubleshooting after having begun to install the graphics cards is I wasn't getting a video feed out. Even if I plugged into any one of the various graphics cards, only when I removed all except one and then plugged into that one was I able to get a video out. But that also gave me the opportunity to install the GeForce drivers, which are going to be needed, of course. And then also I came into the BIOS and changed the display out from auto to the onboard graphics, because it might try PCIe since it recognizes the graphics cards, etc. So I've cranked up the fans a little bit. I'm going to boot into Windows. So even though this has a only dual core with hyper-threading, so 4 logical cores, considering that it's booting off an SSD, it's actually not too bad boot up and launching applications and such. So each one of these cards is going to consume about between 200 and 240 watts of power each. So the total build, you're cresting probably 1500 watts of power usage. But what I've found with tweaking the overclock settings as well as the TDP settings is that you can get between 85 and 90% of your mining returns with a TDP turned down, in some cases for me, to 65%. So that's going to save you a little bit of juice, a higher percentage than the percentage of return that you will have lost. So to manage my overclock and power consumption, I'm using MSI Afterburner. If you haven't heard of it, it is a great utility for managing various different tuning aspects of your graphics card. So there's some settings I usually default to, sort of, and what I would recommend is just lower your TDP maybe by increments of 5, and apply it and just run it for a bit, see if it's stable, start mining, and see what your return is. So I'm going to change TDP to 75. Temperature limit, I'll set that to 86. Core clock, I'm going to add 150 megahertz to that. And memory clock, let's try 500. It will apply. And because we have 5 cards in here with Afterburner, if you come over to GPU here, you'll see I have 4 here. And if I click down, I've got the 5th there, and 6 being the integrated graphics, but we're not gonna mess with those. So I'm just gonna go through and apply this to each of these, and then we'll see what happens when we start mining. Okay, so the settings have been applied to each card here, and so let's give it a whirl. I'll move this off to the side. Let me pan out a bit. There we go. And the miner I'm using is Nice Hash Miner 2. And actually the update number 2, which is very sleek, it just came out a few days ago. And I'm going to, of course, blur some things on here so you can't see them. But we're just going to launch this, begin actually mining, and see where our temperatures go and our power usage. Because you're sort of in a weird relationship where you want your returns to be as high as possible with your power consumption being as low as possible. So what's important is finding for your devices, your different graphics cards, builds, and cost of power, what is the best, the highest cost return ratio. So let's give it a whirl. And looking at MSI Afterburner right now, because it's only just now started, we're only at 50 degrees on this card, and I imagine they'll all be pretty comparable. That one's 57, 59. Oh yeah, they're all climbing. And you can see right here that the estimated daily return of Bitcoin is 18 bucks. So this is going to vary right now. When I first started this, actually about 3 months ago with just a single 1080 Ti, you could get about $8 a day in pure profit where I live, where power runs 12 cents per kilowatt hour. You get about $8 each. Now you're looking at between $3 and $5 for the 1080 Ti's at the moment. So this will float between $15 to $22. We would get a little bit more, probably closer to $19.50 if I hadn't underclocked it a bit. But this is still, well, rather overclocked and lowered the TDP, but this is still excellent. And I take it back. I suppose it's not going to show us the power that we're using. Also, another thing, if you're using NiceHash miner, something I forgot to do is change it to the lowest or the closest location to you. I'm in America, so I'm going to change it to the only server in America, which is in San Jose. That'll lower ping. I'm going to relaunch it. So with this software, you're not actually mining Bitcoin without a very custom chip known as a system on a chip. It's not profitable to mine Bitcoin. You're actually mining various other cryptocurrencies, and in return you're being paid in Bitcoin. Now you could go out and buy like an ant miner or something of that nature for literally thousands of dollars, and you'll get a much higher return. But as that device becomes more and more obsolete and isn't returning a profit, it doesn't really have a resale value. So at least with the 1080 Ti's, should it not be profitable to mine any longer, you could still reuse them in a build or sell them or what have you. So with this running, I'm going to let it run for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to check the sound, the decibel levels on the build. So it's been about 20 minutes, and running at full tilt here, we're hitting about 75 to 85 decibels. So, whoops. Honestly, it's not that bad. Like I said, as long as it's somewhere away from people, from dogs, from pets, it's up, not on the ground, and it has good ventilation, you should be set. Where it's at right now, I've got a lot of open room in front of the build, and it's drawing in air from behind, but you can't really see because it's so dark in here. So that's it, guys. That's my cryptocurrency miner. It is ugly as hell, and if by now you haven't realized, it was built into a coffee table. My craftsmanship skills are subpar, so after I began building this and ran into various issues, I decided to think outside the box. I flipped this Ikea table over, and I just began building, and everything sort of fell into place. But it wasn't easy. So I'll be very active in the comments. If any of you guys have any questions as far as troubleshooting goes, advice, etc., I'll answer to the best of my ability. So go ahead and drop a comment if you have a question. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this.